Hey, we're just going to do a quick edit on this photo this is from last month's gallery night, August, and I'm going to fix this up so I can post it on my blog, and I've chosen this one for my Instagram as well. The reason I like it for Instagram is I like this gallery night logo right here, and I think I can do a lot with this. It's also, I think it's going to look good in a square crop too, with the golf cart here, a little blurry background here. If you're wondering why this picture looks crappy, be sure to make sure you understand the difference between shooting in RAW versus shooting in JPEG. I wrote an article about that. So this looks crappy because it's a RAW file, and always shoot in RAW if you have a lot of bright lights or dark shadows, night photography, things like that, because we're going to be able to really pull a lot out of this image. And this, we wouldn't be able to do much with this with a JPEG. Okay, so first thing I usually look at is how are we doing on the straightness of the image. We don't want anything, I like to keep the horizon straight and things like that. This looks a little crooked to me, a little bit leaning left, so the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of adjust that just a little bit this direction. I feel like those people are kind of aiming down the hill. And the golf cart too, it looks like it's kind of driving down the hill. So it's very subtle, but I'm just going to crop it there. Now, I am going to end up cropping this into a square for Instagram, also because I don't need all this, but I always edit the whole photo before I do the final crop is last. I just do the horizon straightening first, final crop is the very last thing I do, and that's because someday I might need this in this format, and if I haven't edited the whole thing, I can never change that. So okay, so I never start with the final crop. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. Next thing I usually start with is my shadows and highlights. That's bring out the shadows. I don't always bring them out all the way. In this case, I'm going to go almost all the way because I want to bring out all this green right here. And then my highlights, I'm going to probably drop those all the way down because this was all really blown out, and I want to, darken that. Okay, so highlights down, shadows up all the way is sometimes just a little too much. It brings out a lot of that grain when you're shooting at these high ISOs. This is ISO 2000. But I think that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so after the highlights and shadows, then I usually look, do I have a white point here? And if I don't, usually I'll just bring that white slider up until I see color in that triangle, and then now I know I've got a white point. So that just gives me some contrast. After that, I'll add a little more contrast, and now this looks pretty good. I'll add a little clarity here, not much. I don't like crunchy images, but just a little bit there. Okay, now I'm going to look at it and kind of look at the overall exposure, and I kind of look at the histogram for that, but this being a night photo, we do want a lot of it skewed left, but I'll always tend towards going a little brighter, and then I can always darken it later. But so I'm going to bring that up just a little bit. Okay, so now we're looking pretty good. Maybe a little more contrast here. And now I want to make this a little more colorful. I like my night photography a little bit colorful, so I'll add some vibrance, add some saturation. Difference between those, saturation attack goes after every color, vibrance more so focuses on like blues and greens and things. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. I don't like it to be like glowing or anything, but I like the colors to pop on the night photography. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this all the way down to the bottom and look at my dehaze slider here. Usually night photography like this, I just add a little bit just to smooth it out. Okay, so maybe like 9 or 10. That looks good right there. Okay, And then if this were another lens, I would do these lens corrections here, but this is a Sigma lens, not a Canon, so I don't have this set up. Like if I check this box to enable the profile connection, it doesn't even know what lens I shot with, and that's just, I haven't had time to get that set up. Okay, so I'll come back to all this stuff later after that's the part that I do in the final bit. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Now it's time to do some more detail cleanup. The last thing I want to do to this image is I want to clean this street up. I don't like all this debris right here. And so you can use this spot removal tool if you really just want to stay in Lightroom, but I mean, that takes so long and it's so inaccurate, and it's not good. It's so much faster to just bring this into Photoshop. And before we go into Photoshop, I'll just show you, you can do your backslash key to just see what you've done so far to your image. So I can press it here and it shows me the original, and then press it here and it shows me what I've done to it. So I think that looks a lot better. And a lot of people would probably stop there and say, okay, that's pretty good. But I just want to get some of this clutter out of the way, and I don't like this right here. So we are going to go right click on it, edit in Photoshop. That's going to open it in Photoshop. It always tells me I need this plugin, but I don't have it, and it always works. So I don't ever look further into that. Okay. So okay, now we're in Photoshop, and first thing I'm going to do over here in my layers panel, I'm just going to duplicate the background. That way, if I make any changes and I don't like how it looks with the changes, I can just throw away the layer and start over. Okay, so Control J is just going to duplicate that, and so now I'm working on this layer. So we've got the background and the layer. Now, to clean all this up, I usually just use this, I guess it's called spot removal, and then just use content aware. I just keep this all in the default. So this Band-Aid is like my most used tool in Photoshop. To zoom in on this, I'm just using my mouse scroll bar. I can't remember how I like set it up to do that. It's somewhere in the settings, but but it's really handy. So if yours doesn't do that, just Google it. Okay, so this is all the stuff that I just want to clean up. Make sure when you're using the Band-Aid tool that you get the whole thing in the selection, like not part of it, because if it's just part of it, it just doesn't do it right. Okay, so we want to get the whole thing, but not much else. So now I just go around and kind of clean that up. I don't like all that. I mean, some of it can stay, it's fine, but I don't like all that. I guess these are leaves or something. To me, they're just distracting in the image, and I don't need all that. I just want the street to look, basically what it is, I don't want the street to look a certain way. I just want you to look at the image and not notice the street. I want you to see the people and the golf cart, and so any sort of clutter or distractions that don't add to the image need to go. So see, so that was like really fast and cleaned all that up. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. That looks way better. See, now I can click on this eyeball here to make this layer active and not, and that just helps you see what you've done. Okay, see, look at that. I mean, come on. Come on. These are just details. These are details that are really important to me. That doesn't add anything to the photo. That doesn't add any reality. It doesn't add anything. It just, that looks better. Okay, the other thing I don't like is I don't like this. I know I'm really messing with reality here, but it just stands out to me, and it's not necessary. So I'm going to see if I can easily just take it out with this. Sometimes this gets a little sketchy, but done. Okay, I like that. I don't like how that's so abruptly cut off, so I'm going to take my clone stamp right here, make that small, and just opacity at 33%. Press Alt to choose where you're painting from, and I'm just going to kind of slowly fade that out and like bring it down now to like 9, and just kind of, just so it's not this abrupt cutoff like I just took a sticker off. Okay, I like that. So when we go out, yeah, that looks fine. Okay, back to my spot removal. I think it's called spot removal. I always call it the Band-Aid, but I'm realizing I don't really know official names for this stuff. Okay, I think that looks okay. I mean, I could have done that a little better, but okay. Even though this is going to get cropped out, I'm going to take this sticker out too, just in case, just while we're here. I don't like that. It's just distracting, and there's no point in it. Okay, that's good enough. Okay. All right. So now I think this looks good. Okay, so now if I take this off, I can say, look at all that. I mean, so much better. Oh, okay. And so with that, we are done in photo. I'm looking, seeing if there's just any last minute things, but I think that looks good. I think we're done in Photoshop. I don't do a whole lot in photo shoot. I do most of my stuff in Lightroom, but photo shoot for that detail work. So now when I save this, it's going to put it back in Lightroom. And this is the only setup I do, this connection between Lightroom and Photoshop. I don't know anything about Camera Raw or all that other stuff people do. I import into Lightroom, I start there, do some detail work in Photoshop, saves it back into Lightroom, and I export it from there. That's just my nice simple setup. So, okay, we are looking good here. So now I just want to see what else can I do to finalize this. We're almost done. I'm going to drop the highlights a little more. This is still glowing at me. And now that we've kind of started with this clean slate back from Photoshop, we can do that. And then I'm going to a little more contrast, brighten this up a little bit. We've lost our white point there somewhere. Okay. And then make sure we have a black point. I like to have a black point and a white point, and nice dynamic range. Okay, now we are looking like I want it to. Last thing we are going to do is go down here, and I sharpen the image, usually right around 95, 96. At night photography, it's really important to use this masking slider, because basically that when you sharpen an image, it's sharpening the whole image. And as you can see right here, the darkened areas, you're just sharpening noise basically, and that's this. So the masking will just kind of take the sharpening off anything that doesn't have like detail in it. So I usually put that around like 40 on night photography, just depending, but that's just a guideline. Luminance is my favorite slider, but I try not to overdo it. Usually I just do it. I really like that smooth look to thing. A lot of people don't use this at all, so I'm not, you know, saying that you have to use that, but I love the luminance slider. Okay, and so that's now we're done, except for the very final thing I do is I do my final crop. So my final crop on this is going to be a square, and let's see, we are going to do square for Instagram. And where should I put that? I want to get that, I think I want to get that girl in there. That looks good. I want to get a little of this tire, because this is our subject. I mean, I shot this at f2 to get this nice and sharp. This is just kind of our background. So I don't want to go too, you know, you really want to think about where you're cropping. That's okay, but to me, I don't know if we have a clear subject here. So I might even bring that down. So I want to make sure that this is the subject. Cropping is very important. You just got to really think, what am I doing here? You got to think about everything. What am I cutting off? Any words? What am I doing here? Okay, so I think I like that. I've got all the people in, but just barely, and I've still got the you know, gallery night logo here and all that. So let's try that. Okay, I think I might move it over just a little, because we've got a lot of golf cart right there. Okay. All right, I think that looks good. Final thing I usually do is think, do I need a radio filter, a vignette, anything like that, to kind of direct anybody's eye anywhere. In this case, this is the main thing. I'm probably going to brighten up this whole, like what I'll do sometimes is just like brighten the whole image up. And and then I'll take like a radial filter and put it around what I want the focus to be on. I make sure these are all cleared out when I do that. So I'm going to put, this is what I want people to see, this Gallery Night logo. This is all just the story around it. So, okay. So I'm going to pull this, you just click in the middle and just pull and drag, and you make this pretty big because it's, there's a lot of feathering on this. So like if you hover over here, it'll show you what's being selected, and you can see that's a lot, not a lot of white right there. So I'm going to make that even a little bit bigger. All right, so that looks good. So basically, our adjustment that we're about to make over here is going to affect everything that's red. And so that's most of the image, but that's why I made it bright. And I'm even going to bring my feather down a little bit, because then that'll be, okay, so that's good. So now I'm going to come over here, and the only thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken that stuff. And you see how I'll just do it extreme so you can see. It's not affecting the golf cart. That's where I want your eye to go. So I'm just darkening the stuff. Wait, sorry. I'm just darkening the stuff around it to kind of pull the focus onto that a little bit. Okay. And I think that looks good. So that way it's like this stuff's still here, but it's not as distracting. It's like, okay, so anyway, and I'm not happy with this crop actually. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the corner here that I just don't think we need all that road and everything. Okay, that's better. Yes, I like that better. Okay, so I think that's good. I think I'm happy with that. And now I'm just going to export it and put it on Instagram. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and hopefully this is helpful, and have a good night.